In this podcast episode, Jessie Inchauspé, known as the glucose goddess, shares her insights on the critical role of glucose in our health. She explores the impact of glucose spikes on various health issues, including mental health, aging, and fertility, as well as practical strategies for managing glucose levels through dietary choices and lifestyle adjustments. Inchauspé emphasizes that a staggering 80% of the population experiences daily glucose spikes, which can lead to various health issues, including mental health problems, infertility, acne, and accelerated aging. With 1 billion people globally, either diabetic or pre-diabetic, the prevalence of glucose spikes in those without diagnosed health issues is alarming. The modern food landscape, filled with sugar and starches, significantly contributes to these spikes, which are detrimental to overall health. Glucose spikes occur when the body experiences a rapid increase in blood sugar levels, primarily due to the consumption of starches and sugars. While occasional spikes may not be harmful, frequent and significant spikes can lead to chronic fatigue, accelerated aging, and insulin resistance. The body responds to these spikes by releasing insulin, which helps store excess glucose in the liver, muscles, and fat cells. Over time, this can lead to weight gain and other metabolic issues. Inchauspé elaborates on how sugar affects our cells, particularly the mitochondria, which are responsible for energy production. Excessive glucose can overwhelm mitochondria, leading to chronic fatigue and reduced energy production. This phenomenon is likened to overwatering a plant, which can cause it to drown. Additionally, sugar consumption triggers the release of dopamine, creating a temporary feeling of energy that masks the underlying fatigue caused by mitochondrial dysfunction. Glycation occurs when glucose molecules bind to proteins, leading to changes that can accelerate aging and damage organs. As we experience more glucose spikes, we hasten this glycation process, resulting in visible signs of aging, such as wrinkles and internal damage to organs. To mitigate these effects, Inchauspé suggests implementing strategies to reduce glucose spikes while still enjoying favorite foods. Inchauspé discusses the relationship between muscle mass and glucose metabolism. Individuals with more muscle mass can better handle glucose spikes because their muscles can absorb more glucose for energy. This means that if two people consume the same sugary food, the one with greater muscle mass may experience a smaller glucose spike. Other factors, such as hydration, stress levels, sleep quality, and genetics, also influence how the body responds to glucose. Inchauspé reveals that many foods considered healthy can cause significant glucose spikes. For instance, honey and grapes, while often viewed as nutritious, are high in sugar due to human breeding practices that have made them sweeter. Whole fruits contain fiber, which can mitigate glucose spikes, but fruit juices lack this fiber and can lead to rapid increases in blood sugar. This misconception about fruit juices being healthy is common, but they can be as detrimental as sugary sodas. Many foods that do not taste sweet can still cause glucose spikes, such as bread, rice, and pasta. These foods are composed of starches, which break down into glucose molecules upon consumption, leading to spikes in blood sugar levels. It is essential to understand that glucose is not inherently sweet. Rather, it is the fructose in fruits that provides sweetness. This distinction is crucial for understanding how different foods affect glucose levels. Inchauspé discusses the concept of good and bad sugars, emphasizing that not all sweeteners are created equal. Healthier options include stevia, monk fruit, and allulose, while artificial sweeteners like aspartame and sucralose are linked to various health issues. However, she acknowledges that aspartame is still a better choice than consuming sugary sodas, like a can of Coke with 30 grams of sugar. Inchauspé herself avoids added sugars and sweeteners, preferring black coffee, but admits to enjoying chocolate occasionally. From an evolutionary standpoint, Inchauspé suggests that while fruits were part of our ancestral diet, they were less sweet and more fibrous than modern varieties. Today, the food landscape is dominated by sugars and starches, leading to health issues. She expresses optimism about the potential for change, noting that many individuals are reclaiming their health through education about food choices. However, she stresses the need for systemic changes and government involvement to promote healthier food options. Inchauspé discusses the relationship between insulin resistance and conditions like polycystic ovary syndrome, PCOS, which can lead to infertility. High insulin levels can increase testosterone, resulting in symptoms such as acne and irregular periods. While birth control pills are often prescribed for PCOS, they do not address the underlying issues. Instead, Inchauspé advocates for managing glucose levels as a way to alleviate PCOS symptoms. Inchauspé shares several hacks to help manage glucose levels without requiring drastic dietary changes. These include 1. Savory breakfast. Starting the day with a savory breakfast consisting of protein and healthy fats can stabilize glucose levels throughout the day. 2. Vinegar before meals. Consuming 1 tablespoon of vinegar diluted in water before meals can reduce glucose spikes by up to 30% by temporarily inactivating digestive enzymes that convert starches and sugars into glucose. 3. Eat vegetables first. Starting meals with fiber-rich vegetables creates a protective barrier in the intestines, slowing down the absorption of glucose from subsequent foods. 4. Light exercise. After eating, engaging in light exercise after meals can help muscles absorb glucose more effectively, reducing spikes in blood sugar levels. Inchauspé conducted an experiment with 2,700 participants who adopted these hacks without changing their overall diet. The results were striking. 90% reported reduced cravings and increased energy levels, with many experiencing improvements in sleep, mood, and overall health. Inchauspé emphasizes the importance of food order, where consuming vegetables before proteins and carbohydrates can significantly lower glucose spikes. This approach does not require drastic changes to one's diet, but rather a simple adjustment in the order of consumption. She encourages listeners to think about how they can incorporate these hacks into their daily routines to improve their health and well-being. Inchauspé discusses the significant relationship between visceral fat and glucose spikes. Excess visceral fat can lead to insulin resistance, causing higher glucose levels in the bloodstream. This cycle creates a feedback loop where increased glucose levels lead to more visceral fat accumulation, exacerbating health issues such as diabetes and cardiovascular diseases. Managing glucose levels is crucial to mitigating the risks associated with visceral fat. Inchauspé references a long-term study that found individuals with elevated glucose levels in midlife were more likely to develop Alzheimer's later in life. The brain of an Alzheimer's patient exhibits similar characteristics to that of a diabetic, including inflammation and insulin resistance. This has led some researchers to label Alzheimer's as type 3 diabetes, underscoring the critical need to address glucose management to potentially reduce the risk of developing Alzheimer's. In discussing the food industry, Inchauspé critiques the creation of medications designed to manage the consequences of unhealthy eating habits rather than addressing the root causes. This perspective highlights a systemic issue where the focus is on treating symptoms rather than promoting healthier food choices and lifestyles. She raises concerns about the hidden agendas of food companies, which often prioritize profit over health, leading to products high in sugar that contribute to public health crises. Inchauspé notes that women often experience increased glucose levels and spikes during menopause due to hormonal changes. This can lead to various symptoms, including weight gain and increased cravings. She suggests dietary changes, such as reducing sugar intake and incorporating more savory foods to help mitigate the effects of hormonal changes on glucose levels. In discussing coffee consumption, Inchauspé explains that for some individuals, coffee can indeed cause glucose spikes, particularly if consumed on an empty stomach or without food. She advises that drinking coffee after a meal can help reduce the likelihood of glucose spikes, as the body is better equipped to handle the caffeine alongside food. Inchauspé emphasizes that the food parents provide to their children can significantly affect their health, mood, and behavior. High glucose foods, often seen as harmless for children, can lead to serious health issues like type 2 diabetes, which is increasingly being diagnosed in younger populations. She challenges parents to consider the long-term implications of their choices and to set a good example by choosing healthy foods themselves. Inchauspé advocates for consumer education to help people make healthier choices and emphasizes the need for systemic changes in the food industry. By understanding the dynamics of glucose management, individuals can make informed dietary choices to improve their health and mitigate the risks associated with glucose spikes.